certification that nothing's changed or that the conditions haven't changed on the site. So, and I don't know what's happened to the stormwater regs or the buffers in the last 3 years, whether or not that would impact the environmental statement. So, you know, it's really an issue for the board generally as to whether or not one that is that old would be acceptable.
We can update it.
The other concern is that if the board does allow you to rely on it, it has to be on file with this application for 10 days before the public hearing on the matter. And since you would be pulling it out of an old file, that hasn't occurred. So I would have a little bit of a jurisdictional issue.
We'll update it. I don't know. Yeah, we want the board to be comfortable. But we think we also can address some other issues that you may have a comfort level with so that they may have an effect on the plan, because now that we have something that's before us and we can start to sharpen our pencil on, I'd like to take the opportunity to address those issues too. Because
I just want to make sure that we have the right to continue on if this stuff is not present, because there are a couple other issues that I'm not sure if now's the time that we decide that.
Well, I think if there are issues of completeness, if there are issues that you're not going to feel comfortable moving forward on the public hearing, give the applicant the benefit of their thoughts now. So
that would be good.
The issue I have is that looking at your print, if I'm reading it correctly, you're proposing to use an existing basin on an adjacent property for some of your stormwater.
Exactly.
When that proposed development went in, it was brought up during the hearings that basin there would be no additional tie-ins to that basin, that it was being over-designed to help facilitate the removal of flooding issues on Justice Drive and Ralph's Lane, and I can't remember, Carney Drive. And we're proposing to tie into it. I believe that that's kind of, we're asking for a waiver of residential site plan standards that say you need to keep your water on site and treat it on site. The other thing is that the township, I believe, has ownership of that basin.
Right.
I don't know if they're willing to accept. I don't know legally if we can, at this board, hear that without the township accepting.
well, they have to get the consent of the owner of the basin before they can direct the flow. Also, it would be my legal position, and I'm sort of hearing about it for the first time, but if you're affecting the stormwater design of an already approved development, that development has to come back in for an amended application. I mean, you cannot just put flow. We have to relook at that design under a whole new amended application. So I'm not sure how you can effectively tie in without bringing that other application back in.
I think that maybe there's a little bit of mischaracterization here. The original basin for Lakeview Woods took the flow from both the area above the site and also the Cornerstone property were always included in that basin in the undeveloped condition, because that was the natural flow of the drainage area there. So this site plus Cornerstone, a portion of Cornerstone, were always anticipated in that original basin. What we will show in our testimony is that the new basin, combined with Cornerstone's basin, whether it's built or not built, will put less water into that Lakeview Woods pond than was originally anticipated in the design that was approved by this board. So I think from that point of view, you know, it is putting water there, but it's putting less water there, and there were always easements left, and there are actually inlets on Lakeview Woods to collect the water from this site and Cornerstone.
I can specifically remember during that application, if I remember correctly, you went from an 18-inch pipe to a 24-inch pipe out in the middle of a field, sitting there doing nothing. My comment during that meeting was, why did you upgrade to a 24-inch pipe? And at that point in time during the meeting, it was brought up that you felt you needed that, but there was no additional flow going to be coming into that basin.
That's true. There's no additional flow, but it doesn't mean that there's no flow from this property coming on there.
But what I'm saying is that the public that was here that evening, this board, what was represented to us, and maybe I'm misunderstanding it, that you over-designed that basin to eliminate the problem that was occurring on Justice Drive, Ralph's Lane, and Carney Drive.
Absolutely
Now,
correct.
in my mind, and I'm not an engineer, and you know, even though it's over-designed, the representations that were before the board were that it was being over-designed to eliminate the problem on those streets.
And that is correct. What I'm saying to you with this application is that the water leaving this site, if you approve this plan, will be less water than was in that design. So actually, the basin will have more capacity in Lakeview Woods than it has today. But the combination of this project and Cornerstone being built, that we're actually, both projects actually are taking water out of that basin and handling it, reducing the flows on these sites. So that there's a natural drainage pattern that goes to that basin, and the combination, either separately or combined, whether Cornerstone is built, we don't, or vice versa, there will be less water going to that Lakeview Woods basin when these two projects are done than was anticipated in that design over 5 years ago.
And the difference would be, this isn't just natural sheet flow over the topography, this is point-directed flow through
Right,
piping.
it connects to the pipes that were left in the Lakeview Woods property to service this property. So there were, I believe there were 3 separate connection points in order to collect the water off of this property so it didn't run across the yards of the new homes. There were inlets left in those locations to collect that water. And basically that's what this project does. It connects to those inlets that were left in the prior design and reduces the rate and volume of water going to that site.
I guess my concern is that the township is the owner of that basin.
That's correct. Yes.
Has anyone spoke to them about you dumping water into that basin?
Well,
I think I understand what you're saying. You're saying that there's already water going in there because there's basins on the backside of these houses
That's correct.
already collecting water, period.
Correct.
That's
So
correct.
therefore, with your development, you're gonna pump less water in those basins
That's correct.
from your property that ultimately goes to that retention. zone.
That's correct.
Okay.
whether or not Cornerstone is built, here's
Yeah,
Cornerstone.
that has nothing to do with it.
Well, it does, because we took Cornerstone into consideration, and we've designed it in a way that if Cornerstone is done, well, then that's good, better, best. But even if Cornerstone is not built out, which we can't guarantee or have any control over, the way you see it right now, take the natural state, less water is going to be going in there because of the creation of the basin.
I think the issue is board, and you've been here before, Frank, you know this board is very, very concerned about
Absolutely.
drainage issues, especially in that area.
We are going to solve.
There are a lot of flooding issues that occur out there now, and our concerns are that, you know, I don't want to waive, at least I'm speaking for myself, I don't want to waive off a right of us not being able to discover something from an environmental impact statement or a drainage calculation that might be missed because we don't look at it really strictly.
I think we've done the drainage pattern, that's what we're trying to say. And not only that is this project, and the reason that I would be coming to you was designed in such a way for us as an applicant to give something back to the township that they don't otherwise have right now, one of which is solving some of the drainage situations that are down in here. That's number one, and we're asking for some consideration on that. Number two, because it was testified to when you had the Fenton Avenue that there were going to be pipes in here that would be tying into it. That's not something that comes as a complete surprise. Also, another reason is, and I know what you're saying, is why would the municipality want to own this basin? Well, the reason is because when we laid this project out, we're giving you something that you don't have right now and you could never have if we weren't willing to expend probably $500,000. Think if we were designing this project and put a cul-de-sac right here. What would we lose? Probably nothing, because we could come in on a minor down this end or part of the major. We'd eliminate a $500,000 stretch of road. Now, this is going to be a tremendous benefit to the municipality for everybody that lives in here, because now they're going to have almost direct access to South Gulfwood Avenue. And we're willing to go the extra distance and the extra cost to do that, when all we're asking the municipality to do is to pick up the ownership of this, because what this does then, this is the only reason why you would have a homeowners association. Homeowners associations aren't the end all. This would be better aligned with what you have in Fenton, especially with the understanding that some of the traffic issues from this area are now going to have access to South Gulfwood. With all of that taken into consideration, we don't think it's an unreasonable request to let the municipality pick up the ownership of the basin here.